All right, gentlemen, we need to talk about Dorian Yates, specifically his TRT and longevity protocol, because he's 63 years old, he's a former Mr. Olympia, and he's staying very lean. He's maintaining a lot of muscle mass that would put most 30-year-olds to shame at this point. And I can guarantee this, it's not happening by accident. And Dorian's gonna do a deep dive on his exact TRT protocol, what he thinks of growth hormone, what supplement stacks he believes in, and what he's running to optimize for longevity at this point. And honestly, this is probably the most transparent protocol breakdown a bodybuilding legend has ever given us. And these are the principles he's using to stay lean year-round at 63, while most guys his age are literally falling apart. Now, in case you're new here, my name is Nick Trigili. I'm a former IFBB pro. I'm a coach to thousands of high-performing men. And I've been deep into performance enhancement for over 2 decades. And this breakdown I'm about to give you is a masterclass, and you guys need to hear it if you want to stay healthy and jacked as you get older into your 40s, your 50s, and your 60s. Now, before we dive in, this content is for educational purposes only, and it's not medical advice. Always consult with your doctor and consider medical supervision before you guys start any hormone protocol. Now we got that out of the way, let's dive in head first.
I was eating oats with egg whites, not a lot, and I would taper it. Like I'd have more carbs in the start of the day and after training, and less, but not like 0. So I was having like 50 grams of oat porridge, mixed with egg whites and stuff, like half an hour before I went to bed, or 40 minutes, because if I was to not eat for 3 or 4 hours before I go to bed, there's like, I'm not sleeping.
I want guys to understand this that are just approaching this for a lifestyle purpose. I get this all the time from clients, by the way. Nick, this diet looks like it's made by ChatGPT. Nick, this looks very cookie cutter-ish. Like, why is the diet so simple and plain? You guys just heard it from multiple Mr. Olympia champion, a man that's been eating and breathing and living bodybuilding at the highest level that I could only imagine reaching. He's telling you he eats egg whites. He's telling you he eats oatmeal. He's telling you he has carbs throughout the day and he tapers them down as he gets closer to bedtime. He's very hungry at nighttime. You guys that are getting into this lifestyle for the first time, hear this, absorb it, understand what he's saying. You're gonna be hungry. You're gonna have to eat very simple whole foods. You're not gonna get excited about eating healthy, I'm sorry. Now, you can get creative with your recipes and make it more enjoyable and season the food and prepare it better, but at the end of the day, the whole foods that we have available are the same ones that Dorian had available when he won Mr. Olympias and he was dominating bodybuilding.
Need some carbs just to help with it, probably with serotonin production or something, so that's how I eat now. I eat carbs in the evening with my dinner in the evening, sweet potatoes, rice, that kind of stuff.
Wow.
I have a tiny little bit of pesto on it.
Sometimes I have a liter of ice cream from Ben & Jerry's, but we shouldn't talk about that.
I mean, listen, guys, he's human just like us. Of course, he feels the temptation of wanting to have something sweet and ice cream. If you guys think Dorian Yates or even myself don't have a treat here and there or don't desire these things, we fucking do. But guess what? We have discipline. We know when we can have it and we shouldn't have it. Do you think Dorian was tempted to eat ice cream when he's going for multiple Mr. Olympia champions and he knows there's a competitor on the other side of the world that wants to beat him and take his title? No. He had very, very, very good discipline. He had a killer instinct and he wanted to win. So if you guys aren't in that frame of mind right now because you're chasing a lifestyle, you want to be healthy, you have to understand there's going to be balance to it. But in order to get over that hump and maybe lose that body fat, you've got to be disciplined like you're preparing for the biggest show of your life until you actually get those results that you want. And then you'll have more freedom.
It's when Gal buys it, man. I tell her not to buy it because Gal can have a tub of ice cream, and have 1 scoop, and it's like still there next week. Like, if I'm gonna eat it, it's gone.
Eating it all.
Minutes out of the way.
What do you think now? The big trend now is cottage cheese amongst Gen Z and younger.
Cottage cheese was a thing when I first started training, man, and then it's gone out of vogue, right?
It's got the casein protein, and
It's a good protein, not a bad protein. Cottage cheese and tuna, those are the available and cheap protein when we were young, right?
If you have your choice nowadays, loaded with preservatives, junk quality protein, I would say it's on the bottom tier of good sources of protein. Now, if it's all you can afford, it's all you can get, no problem. Eat that over fast food, eat that over protein powders any day of the week. But if we're talking about, the highest quality protein, no, cottage cheese is not my diet. Sorry. I make way too much money. I work way too fucking hard to eat cottage cheese and fucking tuna. Now, you guys may disagree with me. Maybe you guys like that stuff. But again, quality over quantity.
cottage cheese and tuna. You did almost the same.
I had some sick guys in my gym, man, that used to make tuna shake. Orange juice and tuna blended together. I'm like, why don't you just have a strawberry protein? Like, you know, tastes much better, but apparently it was a bit cheaper or something, you know. So yeah, Cottage cheese is a good protein, but you know, it's not a magical protein. If you want to like go on a scale, probably going to find egg is at the top. If you want to, you know, eggs. You want to split hairs, like, you know, but they're all good for dairy, meat proteins, eggs.
There's been some, I think, warnings coming out about whey protein, or you know, that's essentially it's the whey.
I don't agree with Dorian there. No dairy. No. Very inflammatory. Most people watching this right now, we're not going to be able to digest dairy products. You're not. The dairy here in the United States is loaded with preservatives. The fermenting process is a mess. So it's not really that healthy. It's not nutrient dense foods like it used to be. So I would pass on the dairy protein.
Production of the dairy industry, and that it might not be the best, maybe even spike your blood sugar. Do you have much faith in whey anymore?
Well, whey is a great protein. Yeah, it's yes, they used to throw it away before, but it doesn't mean it doesn't have some value. You know, whey protein is a first-class protein. Yeah, if you're concerned about blood sugar, you can always mix it with the fat. You know, put some coconut oil in the shake or something like that. If it was after training, I would just have it with water. But let's say you're going to have a protein late at night. I'd put maybe some coconut oil in or something, or half an avocado or something. Slow down the digestion a little bit.
100% agree with him by adding fats to it. It slows down absorption, keeps your blood sugar stable for longer. I'm not big on protein powders. Again, I can't really eat them. My stomach's very sensitive to them. I did enough damage to my gut microbiome throughout my 20s and early 30s, so I paid the price for that. Do I use protein powders? No. I actually use liquid egg whites as my base, and that basically replaces protein powders. And then I build out my protein shake with all the same ingredients I typically would, just removing the actual powder, which is super processed. It's garbage in my opinion, but everyone's gonna have their own belief system with nutrition. I'm just telling you guys mine. Doesn't make it right or wrong. Now, this is where Dorian's gonna talk about the supplements he uses and your guys' favorite topic in bodybuilding, tren. So buckle up.
The one that's coming around that was like available in
the 90s.
The 90s. Yeah.
That's Bill Phillips and the whole.
I take a lot of supplements. It's more like health related.
Like vitamin D3.
I take D3, K2, you know, for general health, immunity in the arteries.
Are you doing anything for NAD? Are you doing NMN?
NMM I've just got, because DY's got our own facility now. We've got their own labs and formulators. So I just call them up and say, have you got this in stock? Because we're bringing out a whole new range, DY Life, later in the year, which is more health, wellness, longevity. So it's more interesting for me because the other stuff has been, you know, been doing it a long time, right? So I just call them up and get my own stuff made. So I got this week delivered NMM, K2, D3, 20 milligram melatonin, because you can only get 2 milligrams here in the store.
You normally take that?
20 milligrams, man, yeah. I took 40 the other night. There's a guy out there, expert on melatonin, he takes hundreds. And he's saying it's like a very powerful antioxidant because melatonin is all the cells now, not just in the brain they've discovered. Anyway.
Melatonin is absolutely amazing for helping with sleep, getting deep sleep, REM sleep. The dose, again, Dorian's built up a pretty serious tolerance to it. I don't suggest starting out with that much. I definitely say try it out, see how you respond to it. You can always titrate the doses up if necessary, but a little bit goes a long way. And you can get pretty foggy the next day, you know, sluggish in the morning if you overdo it and your tolerance is not as good as Dorian. So start low and then titrate up if you need to.
I just feel a little bit more fullness in the muscle, a little bit more push when I'm exercising, a little bit more. So that's something I always take. And a whey protein, I take a shake most days just to keep the protein level up because I'm only eating twice. So to get like 200 grams of protein a day, I need to...
HMB, whatever happened to
HMB, no, I don't use that. That's another one that's coming around that was like available in
the 90s.
The 90s. Yeah.
That's Bill Phillips and the whole.
I take a lot of supplements. It's more like health related.
Like vitamin D3.
I take D3, K2.
I want you guys to understand this. His supplement stack is not something you guys should duplicate into your lifestyle. You should always get proper blood work done. When I say proper blood work, make sure you're doing a full comprehensive blood panel so you're testing all your vitamins, minerals, all of your hormones, every single system in your body so you know what you're deficient in or which hormones are not regulating properly. Because it's not always about taking a peptide or a hormone to fix these things. Usually, most of the time, I can fix most clients and patients' deficiencies in hormones that are not regulating through vitamin, minerals, and amino acids and diet and lifestyle changes, because you guys don't realize the reason hormones are not regulated in the first place is because you're deficient, right? You're not eating enough of the right minerals, vitamins, and amino acids, or the body's under too much stress and it can't recover and regulate hormones. So the first option for me is not always go grab the peptide or the hormone for an individual. You have to look at what's going on, the variables that are going on in an individual's life, and then you can build out the proper protocol and program to fix these markers.
Are you doing anything for NAD? Are you doing NMN?
NMM I've just got, because DY's got our own facility now. We've got their own labs and formulators. So I just call them up and say, have you got this in stock? Because we're bringing out a whole new range, DY Life, later in the year, which is more health, wellness, longevity. So it's more interesting for me because the other stuff has been, been doing it a long time, right? So I just call them up and get my own stuff made. So I got this week delivered NMM, K2, D3, 20 milligram melatonin, because you can only get 2 milligrams here in the store.
Do you normally take that?
20 milligrams, man, yeah. I took 40 the other night. There's a guy out there, expert on melatonin, he takes hundreds. And he's saying it's like a very powerful antioxidant because melatonin is all the cells now, not just in the brain they've discovered. Anyway, so multiple reasons.
Another reason why you don't want to duplicate what other people do, because again, their vitamins, their minerals, their amino acids, not going to necessarily hurt you, but they can make you feel like total shit. I do not suggest or recommend anyone duplicate the doses that Dorian just mentioned with melatonin. You're going to wake up drowsy. You're going to go into such a deep sleep and have such vivid dreams. It could disturb you. I don't suggest doing that. I start with the lowest effective dose, test it out. Guess what? You can always increase the dose the next day or the next week or the next month. See how your tolerance is. Just because he needs 40 milligrams of something doesn't necessarily mean I need to do that or you need to do that. Maybe you don't even need melatonin. Maybe you sleep perfectly fine. And the last thing I want to say that before we go to the next clip, just because he says it's good for you doesn't necessarily mean it's going to improve your well-being or your health. Health supplements should be used when needed. There's only so far you can push the body to feel healthy with vitamins, minerals, and amino acids. You're not going to be more optimized when you're already optimized. You're not going to be even more or less deficient when you're already regulating those hormones and those vitamins and minerals. You can't optimize these things. People overdo B12 all the time, vitamin D all the time, vitamin E, C, melatonin. You're not going to make it better for yourself. You're actually going to cause more damage and actually make yourself feel like shit. All right, so now the conversation goes to TRT protocols. We're going to talk about how he optimizes biomarkers and what he thinks about HCG. Is there a place? Is there a need for it at someone at 63 years old? Or did he use it during his professional bodybuilding career? Listen carefully.
It was when I was using testosterone, but in one shot. I split it up into 2 and 3, and now it's not even at the top. Now it's like 15, 16,
On the trough, on the lowest point. Yeah. So that's your TRT protocol then. That's any particular ester, whatever's.
And I'm fatal cypionate, I don't think there's much difference. Here they have.
It's a testosterone propionate here.
It's supposed to be equivalent to cypionate, I think. Testex.
Yeah, that's cypionate.
Perongatom or something it's called. Yeah.
I don't suggest doing daily injections ever. I suggest sticking with cypionate or enantate, 2 injections a week. Your hormones will be perfectly stabilized. The half-life is about 3 days. That's enough. I would not get into a bad habit, I'm calling it a bad habit, of doing injections every day. You're not going to sustain that for long periods of time. You're going to get sick of it. You're going to forget shots. You're going to cause too many imbalances with your hormones. Stick to 2 shots a week. That's sustainable long term. Doing an injection every day is going to get very old after 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. You're not going to want to do that, right? And stick with cypionate or enantate. You don't need to use propionate or anything faster than cypionate and enantate. This will stabilize your testosterone levels plenty. And if your hemoglobin, your hematocrit, these things are elevated, you have to look deeper than just your shot frequency. There's a lot more going on there.
Milligrams.
230 milligrams in 2 mLs, and they have 100 milligrams in 2 mLs. We have that at the Hormonist, our pharmacy, as well as testosterone propionate, 25 milligrams per 1 ml. And that's what I have been prescribed. And I've been doing daily testosterone propionate for well over a year now. And it keeps mine quite...
Yeah, daily I just got fed up with the little lumps. And I was doing subcutaneous, so I said, wait a minute, I didn't even know you could do that. I was doing that, now I switched back to intramuscular. But
yeah, you can do shallow intramuscular.
Yeah.
You
I
can
do have
the
an
size,
insulin needle just in the delt or something.
Yeah, delts. I can even do it in the side, like the ventral.
But you can do it subcutaneously as well.
You know what? It creates those lumps. And one time I
Do not do subcutaneous injections with anything that's an oil base. You guys are going to learn the hard way if you don't listen to me. Anything that you want to do under the skin has to be done with a water-based injection. Peptides. That's it. You do not do oil-based injections under the skin. You're gonna get lumps, you're gonna get hard spots, you're gonna be calcium deposits. They're not gonna absorb. And you're gonna have these bumps all over your body and you're gonna regret it. Because when you take your shirt off, everyone's gonna be like, what the fuck is wrong with your skin, Nick? It's gonna look like you have sebaceous cysts all over the place. It's not pretty, it's not cute. Testosterone injections should be done intramuscularly. Now, you can use a 25 gauge needle, you can use a 27 gauge needle, you can use a 5/8 length, you can use a 1/2 inch length. You don't have to use a harpoon, like an inch, inch and a half into the muscle. If you're in good shape, you don't have much body fat here. You're not gonna have much subcutaneous fat. So it's gonna go right in. The muscle's right here, guys. There's not 3 inches of body fat sitting on the outside of your skin. And it's still gonna absorb if you have a lot of body fat. I just suggest using a smaller needle if you're scared of needles, you don't like them, but you don't need to be using an inch or an inch and a half needle anymore. And do not do subcutaneous injections.
I'm like, if I do HCG, it sends my estrogen like through the roof, and I feel very.
I think it's.
I used it when I was competing, like at end of cycles, and I got the same feeling then. And instinctively, I just avoided it. I said, I just like, whatever. I just let it go without it. And then somebody recommended I try it a couple of years ago, and I did the blood test, and I saw my estrogen went up like 300 or something crazy.
There's absolutely no reason any man that's older, that does not want to have children, should be using HCG. There's no point in using it. Now, maybe you care about cosmetically how your testes look with your pants off. Maybe you want that fuller ball. I don't care about that. Now, if your goal is just to optimize your hormones, look your best, feel your best, do not use HCG. It's gonna add such a curveball to balancing your hormones. You're gonna lose your mind, you're gonna get frustrated, you're not gonna feel good. And just like Dorian said, your estrogen's gonna be all over the place. It's gonna be a non-stop chase to get it balanced with everything else in your body. Don't suggest using HCG. Stick with TRT. If you need to use an aromatase inhibitor, anastrozole, or aromasin, fine. But keep HCG out of here. You don't need it. And it's only gonna suppress your free testosterone. So now we're gonna hear Dorian Yates' opinion on growth hormone. So this is gonna be a really interesting conversation, and pay attention.
I was 4, and I found one that was sub 2.
Okay, so I've had some good ones as well. Okay, good. About 3.7, 4. Okay. I think the last one was 7, and I think I told you I was I'm on the growth hormone because it helps the heart as well. Small dose, but it kind of stabilizes. So I was really happy with the fasting insulin.
Yeah. What's a small dose of growth hormone?
Just under 0.6 milligrams, under 2 IU. Yeah. Yeah. Because I think as you need a little bit as we get older, and there are some benefits.
2 IUs, and I tested my IGF before. It was like 100, so it was on the low side, I guess. And 2 IUs put me 200, so it's in a good range.
Have you noticed more fat burning and more?
Yeah, I get leaner and sleep a little bit better, which has always been a bit of an issue for me on and off over the years, you know, like stress related. Probably goes way back to bodybuilding, where I got obsessed with you get enough sleep. Yeah, and I lived on a council estate surrounded by noisy neighbors, which I had.
Well, you were one of those guys that would get.
So growth hormone doses should be measured by the milligram, not the IU. The IU is just the volume. Remember that. The milligram is the strength. A lot of people confuse this. And if you look at growth hormone, if you're buying pharmaceutical, especially not black market, there's a strength on there. So it should say 2 milligram, 4 milligram, 6 milligram, 12 milligram, 24 milligram, 48 milligram. All these growth hormones have different strengths. The way you calculate how many IUs you take is the amount of milligrams you're taking. Just like he said, he's taking 0.6 milligram. That's 2 IUs for the type of growth hormone he was using. That doesn't mean you go home and take 2 IUs of your growth hormone and it's gonna be 0.6 milligram. You have to calculate these things properly. Go online and look up the formula to calculate how many milligrams are in per IU for your growth hormone. And then, if you're not taking enough of your growth hormone is not gonna move. Your IGF marker is not gonna get high enough. So then you're gonna have the side effects of having too low of IGF and growth hormone in your body. So it's very important you calculate this properly. No different than when you have a bottle of testosterone, you have to look at the milligram per 1 ml, per milliliter. If you don't calculate that, how do you know how much you're taking? You'll just take 1 ml blindly, not knowing and calculating the milligram you're taking. I see so many men mess this up and they have no idea what I'm even talking about when I bring this up to them. So do your research and make sure you calculate the proper dose for yourself. So now the last thing we're gonna talk about is Ozempic with Dorian and myostatin inhibitors. This is a really interesting conversation and it's probably my favorite part of this video.
A few times I was at Gold's Gym watching Flex and the other guys train, I'm thinking, they're just piss-assing about, yeah? They may have been, but another time I saw him and he was training really heavy, so he could if he wanted to, you know? I saw Flex Wheeler with his little joints and all that, yeah? Don't look strong, but I saw him incline pressing 160-pound dumbbells, got them up on his own, did 10 reps and put them down. It didn't look very difficult. And I was like, fuck, I'd find that quite hard, you know? And I'm bigger, so, he'd put the work in, but probably not always. You know, I was always.
Well, that's interesting. On the studies they did for people who had like muscular dystrophies, they would find they increased lean muscle mass by giving a myostatin, like it inhibit myostatin, either through antibodies or like siRNAs, which is different mRNA, other techniques to say, hey, gene, don't make this, or hey, we're going to block the myostatin. There's many different techniques of blocking myostatin. And what they found was they all did increase lean muscle mass, decrease body fat, but they weren't able to walk out of that chair. And so it makes you wonder if it has to be with the muscle neuron connection.
So the muscles were bigger, but they were not functional?
They weren't functional enough to fix that dystrophy. So I guess I'm wondering, is this possibly why, and maybe you've seen this in young men, they seem like they're stronger than compared to when we get older. They seem like they've got more lifting capacity. Or do I have this really dodgy joints? I can't work it out. Because I've seen this before. Some kid 19, he's lifting, and I think I'm well trained, but he's just easily lifting half the stack. And I'm doing it, but it's making it more difficult to keep up. And I'm thinking,
you're naturally going to be stronger when in between 20 and 30.
So myostatin inhibitors, as far as a hormone goes, a drug goes, they're not where they need to be yet to take them. So I would not dabble with them just yet. I think we're still a little bit further away from being able to use those in, the health and wellness space, bodybuilding space, performance space. But I do think they're going to eventually be here. And at that point, I don't know. It's going to be very intense. It's going to be very interesting to see what changes in the landscape of just professional bodybuilding, let alone with individuals' genetics. If you want to change your genetics, I think you're going to be able to a certain degree. Because remember, that's epigenetics at the end of the day. You have the ability to manipulate those things. It's a gene expression. It's a gene mutation. If you can mutate the genes in your body in a particular way that benefits you, when we're talking about building muscle, that's crazy. That's going to be unbelievable. And I can't wait to experience it. Not going to lie.
Neurons as well, firing like the higher levels of dopamine potentially.
Your guess is as good as mine, mate. But my observation is peak like strength and stuff.
And recovery as a younger person is your peak.
For me, that's like, when I was 30, 31, that was my peak of, I had no injuries, had no problems, peak of strength. And like, you got to observe, I think that's about, for a strength athlete, that's probably around your peak years, early 30s, because
I disagree. I think your peak years depend on how many years you've been training seriously, intensely, right? If a guy starts his bodybuilding career at 25, let's say he's never even thought about bodybuilding till then, I think his peak's gonna be much later. I still think there's some common ground with what he's saying, probably somewhere in your early 30s where you may be able to make bigger strides, but I still think everyone's peak is based on when they actually start that journey. And this is not just bodybuilding I'm talking about across the board with any sport. I think your peak will vary depending on your experience, your talent, how quickly you pick up things, who's training you, the things you experience, the mistakes you made. I think there's a lot of variables you have to consider. So I do think from a body composition standpoint, as far as muscle maturity goes, tendons, ligaments, bones, I think 30 is probably where you're gonna see the best output, right? Your body's gonna perform its best, but doesn't mean you've hit your peak potential at that age, because that depends on when you start.
It takes time to get there, right? So if you started training in the late teens or something like that, it's probably take you 10 years to get somewhere near your maximum potential, which actually is I started training properly in 83 and I won my second Mr. Olympia, which is arguably could have been my peak at 90. So that's exactly 10 years.
So I didn't win Mr. Olympia, but I won Mr. USA 10 years later after I started bodybuilding. I started bodybuilding at 15. I won Mr. USA at 25, 26. So give or take 10, 11 years later. And then obviously I retired at 30. But yeah, his peak was very different than mine.
Taking the medication is also training. Are they not losing muscle mass? Is that preventing them from losing muscle mass while they're using the Ozempic?
So some of the doctors that I've spoken to that prescribe this, and we also prescribe at our clinic, recommend adding protein. And if you exercise, and I've heard of some bodybuilders now using the Ozempic, the Wegovy, this is the same things, or Mounjaro, slightly different, and they're not losing muscle mass, they're actually getting good fat gain. So I think that it's misguided for the media to just blame and say it's muscle loss, Because I think it would be.
If you're in a negative calorie diet, you're potentially going to lose some muscle anyway. So if you're in a negative calorie balance and you had enough protein and you lifted weights, you probably minimized.
You're on testosterone as well. So some of our patients are on testosterone and they're on the GLP-1 and, the Wegovy's, etc. You can minimize it. So it'll be an interesting space. I'm going to watch the space in the next couple of years. There'll be some new developments. And the reason why I think so, because if you've got 3 or 4 or 5 companies working towards this, this has been the holy grail since the early noughties when it was discovered.
A few years ago.
So GLP-1s, I think there is a time and place for them for professional bodybuilders, but I think for lifestyle individuals like myself at this point, retatrutide's number 1, especially when you're not pre-diabetic, you're not diabetic. I think retatrutide is a safe medication to use, especially because it's not as strong as the others, Ozempics, the semaglutides, all those. It's also other benefits with your lipids we're talking about, your inflammatory markers, your growth hormone pathways. It's not just there to help your pancreas absorb more glucose and regulate insulin better. It's got a lot more benefits to it. And I think there is a purpose for it for general health, for people that cannot control their eating habits, that have poor eating habits, that have a lot of cravings, maybe don't have the healthiest work-life balance. There's definitely a road for it. There's a path for it. And I think as long as you don't abuse them, they're going to be very, very, very beneficial to you. Just like TRT is, just like any of these other medications that we use for performance are. And at the end of the day, for an athlete, bodybuilder, they're a huge advantage to have, especially when you're dieting as hard as you are for bodybuilding shows, because that requires maximum elite discipline, and these things make it very easy. So at the end of the day, you may not have Dorian Yates elite genetics, you may not even have my genetics, but if you're trying to stay lean, you want to build muscle, you want to slow down the aging, and you want to optimize your biomarkers, the principles that we covered today in this video are absolutely important to follow. Your hormones have to be dialed in. Your nutrition has to be aligned with what your goals are. Your training has to stimulate growth without wrecking your nervous system and destroying your ability to recover. And your peptides and your protocols for hormones need to support your lifestyle that you desire and not work against it. So if you guys want help and guidance applying these principles to your body, to your goals, and you want a custom protocol built around your blood work and your hormones, your stress levels, your lifestyle, your genes, my team and I can only take on a limited number of clients each month inside my high performance coaching program. So really simple. If you guys are serious about making a transformation, click on the first link in the description, book a call with my team. We're going to review your labs and we're going to see if you're a good fit for the program, because we don't work with everybody. And if you guys got value from this breakdown, hit subscribe, drop a comment, and let me know which bodybuilding legend or protocol you guys want me to break down next. As always, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.